Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.
Hello and welcome. This is George Swift from Bigger, Brighter, Bolder, where we run success groups for ambitious entrepreneurs just like you. Whether you're starting out, whether you're looking to build the business that you want, breaking at 100k per year turnover and beyond, or whether you are already running 100k or more in turnover and you want to continue to scale that business so that you can start to build the business empire, or to simply magnify the quality of your life. Whatever phase you find yourself in your entrepreneurial journey, then we are here to support you to take it to the next level. If you want to know more or even speak to us personally, then go and check out all the links and descriptions of this episode. Welcome to this episode. The Level Up Podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development, and the business growth that you, the ambitious business owner, desires. I'm here to give you the inspiration, the motivation, and above all else, as always, to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. And in this episode, we are talking about the I know that, I've done that auto response that I hear so many times from business owners who are frustrated because they're not achieving the growth, they're not achieving the success that they want out of their business, but equally, they are not doing what they need to do in order to achieve it. They feel like there's a missing ingredient, they feel like there's a missing link, they feel like there's a missing magic pill that somehow will bring it all together for them and get them to achieve that success. And quite often, when you offer them the advice they need to hear, when you share with them the tactics that they need to explore, when you outright, damn right say, this is what you got to do, you hear this way too often. I know that, I've done that, it didn't work for me, it doesn't work for me, etc., etc. Rob Goddard, I've done plenty of webinars with Rob. I've known Rob for 10 years, and Rob described this, the I know that, as being the road to destruction. The I know that, he believes, just shuts you down completely to hearing common sense, to listening to counsel, wise counsel, to reason. It shuts you down from being coached. As a coach myself, as someone that runs masterminds to help business owners achieve what they want to achieve out of life, I can honestly say there's two character traits that we're always looking for any member. Yes, we're looking for ambition, that goes without saying, but you know what? The two traits we're looking for are, number one, they're willing to change. They're open-minded, they're coachable. Number two, they're willing to fight for what it is that they want. If you meet those two criteria, I'm telling you now, you are well on your way to creating what it is that you want to create. And then when we share with you what's in the gap, when we help to uncover the missing ingredients in your own business, then you can start to achieve what you really, truly deserve out of your business, out of your sacrifice, out of the energy and effort that you put into it. But I tell you now, if you're sitting there on the other side of the table, whenever an idea comes across to you and you're saying, I know that, I know that, I know that, well, you might know it, but have you truly tried it? And then other people say, I've tried that, I've tried that. And I say, okay, you've tried it. Have you really implemented it fully enough to know that it doesn't work for you? If they're being honest and they're open and their ego can handle it, 95, 99% of the time, the answer is actually no. They haven't truly given it. They tried it once, twice, maybe even tried it for a week or two, I don't know, maybe even a month or whatever, but it's not enough to know whether or not it really isn't going to work for them, or they've really tried it to know whether it will work for them. Truth matter is, they just don't have enough data. So I want to spend this episode today really breaking open you as the business owner, you as the entrepreneur, and making you coachable. Not necessarily for me, although it'd be great to meet you at some point, but for your own business coach, or the book you read, or the seminar you attend, or the webinar that you listen in on, the YouTube clips, whatever it is that you do to get information about how to improve yourself, how to improve your business. I want to make you more coachable. And what you do is you have to shut down that automatic response, which is, I know that, or I've tried that. I've often been accused in the past of repeating certain themes. And they say, yeah, I know that, George, you said that a month ago. You said that 6 months ago. You said that last year. And I say to them, okay, right, so you know that, but does the results that you're getting in your business and what you're doing in your business, does that signify that you've mastered it? Because if you haven't mastered it, the chances are you need to hear it again. So I'm going to keep on going on about how important sales is in your business. I know I did a podcast last week about it. I did a podcast last month about it. I've done a dozen podcasts in the last 12 months about it, and I will continue to do them. Why? Because until you have absolutely nailed your sales game, until you're on top of that 100%, and not only are you demonstrating that you know it through your actions, but you can quantify it through the results that you're getting, then guess what? You can say to me, you know what, George, I've heard that before. I'm going to just switch off on this one. Until that day, you want to keep listening. I am open all the time, but trust me, I get the response. I've been in this game for a long time. I can start to watch something on YouTube. I can start to listen to a seminar. I can start to listen to a TED talk, whatever it might be. And, 30 seconds in, a minute in, I'm saying, oh yeah, I've heard all this before. I know this. And I too can shut things down. I get it. I'm busy. You're busy. You don't want to sit through the same film over and over again. You might have a favourite you watch a few times, but you don't want to listen to the same news broadcast over and over again. Christ, it feels like that though, doesn't it? But you wouldn't choose to listen to the same thing over and over again or watch the same thing over and over again. You wouldn't choose to read the same book over and over again. You might do a few books, a few films, a few webinars you might watch a few times. Generally though, you do it once, you've got the information, you think you know it, and then you move on. Well, here's the thing. Each of us knows so much more than what we are accessing right now. The example I sometimes say is like, tell me a joke. Think of a joke right now. And if you're under pressure, especially if you're sitting there, at a dinner table and says, oh, look, George, you're a funny guy. Tell us a joke. The chances are, if you're anything like me, you completely freeze up. You can't think of any jokes. You know hundreds of jokes. You've heard maybe thousands of jokes. But right now in that moment, you can't think of a single joke. For some of you, maybe a single joke does come to the forefront of your mind, and it's completely and utterly inappropriate for the setting or the audience. And you're like, afterwards, that joke, this joke, that joke, all these jokes. Why couldn't I access them at a time? Simply because maybe you're under pressure, simply because your brain just wasn't accessing that amount of information. If you imagine how much data is stored in your head, you wouldn't possibly want this to be at the forefront of your mind all the time. It'd be overwhelming. So let's take the joke as an example. I say to you, right, tell me a joke. You can't think of a joke. Later on that day, you think of a joke, maybe a second joke. But you know more than one joke or two jokes. If I gave you long enough, you would access maybe a lot of jokes inside your head. But that still pales into insignificance compared to when you're watching a program, you see a comedian start to tell a joke and you're like, I know this one. But you never would have remembered it. Does this make sense? It's in you somewhere. You know it. You know the punchline once you start to hear the joke. Sometimes you don't even know you've heard the joke until you're halfway through the joke. I've done this before. I don't know if you've done this. I've been halfway through a film before I realise that I've actually seen the film. And then suddenly it clicks. You're like, oh my God, I've seen this film 5 years, 10 years ago, whenever it was. But up to that point, you're not even sure, we don't even aware that you've seen the film. So we can't sit there and say, oh yeah, I've done that, I know that. Well, yes, you might do if you're prompted to think about it, but are you thinking about it enough? Yeah, George, I know sales is super important in my business. You said that, last week, last month, last year. I'm like, okay, when did you have that thought? Just when I prompted you now by talking about it again? Or did you wake up this morning thinking about sales? Were you thinking about sales before I said it? Chances are you probably maybe weren't, and therefore you needed to hear it again in order to prompt you again, in order to bring it to the forefront of your mind to remind you of maybe what you already knew. But also, as you progress your life, as you progress your business, as your perspective starts to grow, you'll start to realise that you can hear the same thing a month, a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, and it can be a profoundly different learning that you get from that thing. Like, for example, watching a film in your 20s that seems like an action film, you come back to that film in your 40s and you realise there's a really deep, meaningful, subliminal message that was completely missed on you the first time round. Suddenly the film has a new depth to it later in life. Could be a book. You read a book when you're young, you come back to that book and you realise how much of that book you missed the first time round, simply because you didn't have the perspective back then. You didn't have the viewpoint back then in order to truly grasp all of the information or messages that were contained in that book. It's the same thing with content. If I share a piece of content and then I repeat that theme next month or next year, then it's not a case of me saying, I know you don't know this, but let me educate you. There's a degree of people that haven't heard it before, and it is the first time they're hearing it. For many people, they've heard something similar to it in the past. For many people that are my members, for example, they may have even heard something very, very similar or even identical from me in the past. I'm not saying it because I don't think you know it. I'm saying it because you need to hear it again. So when someone sits there and says, you know, you really want to try telesales in your business, I think it would really work for you. Oh, I tried that. It doesn't work for me. I know that. I know I should be doing that. But honestly, it didn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, where do I go from there? Oh, okay then. But a much better conversation to say, well, I tried it in the past, didn't work for me in the past. Tell me more about why you think I should apply this. You may find you or your business or the person delivering the message is very different from when you heard it last time or even the first 100 times you heard this. One of the greatest compliments I get is kind of a backhanded compliment, but it is one that I truly hold on to and I do love. And it's people that say to me, you know what, George, I've heard that before, but when you said it, I got it. Or you know what, George, I've heard that 1,000 times before, but there's something about the way you say it that means I get it. For me, it's possible that person needed to hear that 50 times and it just happened at the 51st time I was the messenger and then they got it. I'd like to think that I share things in a certain way, a certain perspective that makes it easier for some people, my tribe, the people that see the world the way that I do, that like my analogies and my metaphors, etc. I'd like to think that I pass on the information in a way that makes it more easy for them to grasp and ascertain than maybe they've heard it in the past, okay? Either way, I'm the messenger, I'm repeating a message. It could be the first time you've heard it, it might be the 100th time you've heard it. The chances are you probably need to hear it again. And even if you've mastered it the first time round, you hear the message again, a year later, 2 years later, you may well find that your business or yourself is in such a different position or place, you've got such different perspectives a year, 2 years, 5 years on, that actually the same information is heard very differently and you can glean a deeper level of understanding, a more profound level of knowledge from the same information that you only got a certain part from the first time round. So whenever someone says to you, you know what, this is working right now in the marketplace. Yeah, I know that. It doesn't work for me. When someone sits there and says, you know what, we tried telesales. It really worked for our business. I think you should give it a go. Yeah, you know, I know that. I tried in the past. Doesn't work for me. You know what's really selling right now is X product, or what people are really buying on right now is on Y motivation. Oh, yeah, I know that. Okay, the person's got nowhere to go. The chances are that even if you do know it, you weren't thinking about it until they prompted you to think about it. And maybe now you're thinking about it, you want to go a little bit deeper on that and just see if there's something new in it that maybe is applicable for where you're at. Especially, of course, if the person passing the information on is a trusted person. If they are a fountain of knowledge and wisdom, if they are a mentor, if there's someone that's achieved what you want to achieve, someone doing what you want to do, someone that you can respect and revere, you probably want to listen to them. And it might be that you've heard it before, that telesales is working right now, or that email campaigns are working right now, or certain funnels working right now. It may well be that you tried it. It may well be you tried it for a day, a week, maybe a month. Maybe you really tried it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but that was years ago. And you just wrote it off. And every time you hear someone mentioning this, you just write it off. Yeah, I know that doesn't work for me. And it doesn't even touch the side. You don't even know where you've heard it. You just block it out. There's a lot of information out there. The brain can only grasp so much of it. Most of that information goes in, it passes through you, it gets stored somewhere unconsciously, and you're not even aware that it's gone in. But what's happened is your brain said, right, that's not important, move on. So actually, you want to start thinking to yourself, whenever someone offers you advice and your immediate reaction is, I know that, maybe you need to ask yourself that question I said before. Do you really know it? And if you do know it, were you thinking about it before you were prompted? Is this something you need to be reminded of? Or is there an opportunity here to learn something new or to hear it in a different way where it might actually work for you? It makes you coachable. It makes you far better company over dinner or beer or over a game of pool or snooker. And it just might transform your ability to create the business that you want. We run masterminds and we educate people on this right from the get-go. When we run our introduction sessions, we've got one coming up, fun enough, really soon. And I always say to people, the first thing we say is this, right? Accept the gift of the advice, the information, the knowledge, the wisdom around the table. You don't have to apply it all, but protect yourself from that default position of thinking, I know that, I've heard it before. Because you'll leave and you will leave with exactly what you came with. A whole load of presuppositions. You'll leave thinking, you know what, I didn't really get anything out of that. And you've missed the opportunity to gain the benefit that's on offer from being in an environment with peers. So when you think in your own life, how often do you think in business, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. You might as well just say whatever, right? For the use that's doing for you. How often do you sit there and say, yeah, I've done that, tried that, I know that, yeah, done that, tried that, doesn't work for me, that wouldn't work for me, the presumptive. I've never tried telesales, but with no experience whatsoever, I'm going to make a massive presumption that wouldn't work for me. There's someone around the table that's saying, you know what, we made $100,000 just out of this campaign. And you haven't even tried a campaign like that. You don't even try campaigns that might resemble that. And you just write it off thinking that wouldn't work for me. It makes you completely uncoachable. And it's also meaning that you're missing out on a massive opportunity in order to gain information from other people that could really transform your business. Be open-minded, be flexible-minded. So they talk about flexible mindset, and flexible mindset just means that you're open. Just means that you're not fixed in your thinking. Fixed thinking is I am and it is. Yeah, and under that whole category comes that thinking, which is it won't work. It's kind of, it is this way. It is this situation. Someone says to you, you know what, you need to be more motivational, more aggressive. You need to be more focused, more disciplined, more, motivated, whatever it might be. And you're sitting there saying, no, I am. This is how I am. This is who I've always been. This is how it is. This is who I am. Fixed mindset, right? Completely closed mindset. There is no opportunity for change in that. An open mind or a flexible mindset is one that just says, you know what, it could be. And I might be, or I could be. So it's saying, you know what, it is what it is right now. I get that. But it might be something else. So bringing that into the context of this episode, it's like, well, maybe you did do that. It didn't work then. That's not a fixed mindset. It's a fact. It didn't work then. However, the open mindset is the one that says, but how might it work now? Or what didn't I do? Or what am I missing? The mindset that turns around and says, I'm just not that disciplined. Well, it might not be a fixed mindset. It might be the truth. It might be that you're not very disciplined. But if you say, I'm not very disciplined and that's the end of it, there's nowhere to go. But if you say, I'm not very disciplined, but the question comes after that, which is, how could I become more disciplined? How does one become more disciplined? How do you apply yourself in a more disciplined way? What can I learn from this? So it might be one thing today, and it might have been one thing in the past, but it doesn't have to be the same tomorrow, next year, or beyond. And just because something was true in the past doesn't mean it's still true today. And something that's true today doesn't necessarily mean it will still be true tomorrow. And that's why it's so important that we continue to hear sometimes the same thing over and over again. Sometimes we need to hear something twice, 3 times. Sometimes you need to hear it 1,000 times before it clicks and you get it. Other times you hear it once, it has an impact. You hear it a second time, it has a deeper impact. 6 months later, you hear it a third time, and yet there's still more to learn from. Think like the best book you've ever read or the best film that you've ever watched, especially if it's one that's got a little bit of deeper meaningfulness in there. Have you ever watched a film and when you know the basic film structure and you know the story and you know the outcome, so you're not focused on those things, that actually a really good quality film sometimes you can really appreciate at a deeper level, because rather than just watching the superficial play out in front of you, you know the superficial already and actually you're open now to the deeper messaging. This is how you can watch a film. For me, it's like Fight Club. I must have watched Fight Club 20, 30 times in my life. I watched it again the other day and I haven't seen it for maybe, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 years. And in that time, the world has changed. In that time, I have changed. In some ways, on both counts, radically. And actually, when I sat down and watched the film again, I found myself seeing things I'd never seen before in the film. Appreciating things I'd never seen or appreciated in the film before. There was another layer of that film. And I've often said, about Fight Club, people say, what's your favourite film? And Fight Club is right up there for me. I've often said, there's so many layers to the film. And every time you watch the film, you'll see more layers in that film if you're open to it. You'll also see some nice little bits and pieces along the way in terms of how they've filmed it and little glitches and subliminal stuff. There's some amazing stuff in that film that you can appreciate when you come back to it over and over again. As long as you love the basic story, of course, and the acting and the film itself, you can come back and watch it over and over again. You can appreciate it at a much, much deeper level because you do understand the basics of it. You do know the basics of that film. You know how it ends. You know how it starts. You know exactly what happens. And because of that, actually, you can be open to much deeper messaging in that film, specifically for me. In business, in a book, in education, in a message that you're hearing, it's the same thing. Even if you know the majority of what you need to know about sales, if you listen to one of my episodes around sales, and I'm saying a lot of stuff that you know, rather than saying, yeah, I know, and switching off, either literally switching off that episode or metaphorically just switching off and focus on something else, if you still listen to it, but you know where I'm going, you know what I'm kind of saying, you know the message I'm giving you because you do know it, actually it means you could be wide open to something that you missed previously. And at that point, you are in the presence of massive opportunity. And where there's opportunity, there's possibility. Where there's possibility, we can start to raise our own potential. Nice one. Once again, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you giving me this time. I always say this, I understand there is a lot of people out there right now vying for your time, vying for your attention. There's a lot of things in your life screaming and shouting at you for your time and attention. Therefore, do not take it lightly that you've chosen to spend this last 20 minutes or so with me. And as a reward for that, I want to pay it back. And therefore, every episode I put out there on this podcast, I really am trying to put out the content that I want you to hear. I want you to listen to find what it is that you need, the ingredients within these messages so that you can apply them in your own life, apply them in your own business so you can start to create the success that I believe you deserve given the effort, the energy, the time you put into your business, the sacrifices you make, the stress that comes with owning your own business. But there's so much potential and opportunity out there and I want to help you embrace more of that. If you think we can help you to do that, then please do go and check us out at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. There you'll find that we help businesses from startup. We help businesses that might be doing 20, 30, 40, 50K to achieve their first 100K in revenue. And we also help businesses that are already doing 100K or more year on year, how they can continue their own journey of extreme growth. And they can start to create the businesses they want. They can create the finances, the wealth they want. But fundamentally, it's about creating the lifestyle and the quality of life and the quality of the experience of life that they want to have as a business owner and entrepreneur. If we can help you, I want to help you. Go and check out our website, biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. Loads of resources there, completely free of charge, but you also find connections there to come and talk to us and see how we might be able to help you. We've got a group in Success Groups that's going to be absolutely perfect for you, regardless of where you are right now in your business journey. If you want to know more, if you want to talk to us, then you'll find an email address for Tracy Miller in the descriptions as well. Reach out to her. She'd love to have a conversation with you about your ambitions, what you're trying to achieve, and ultimately how we might be able to help you achieve that quicker and more easier and maybe even at all than you would do otherwise on your own. Otherwise, if you're not ready for conversation just yet, go and check us out at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. I will see you next time. Until then, as always, be successful.
Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.